if you don't believe in God, this is what I told him. If you don't believe in God, I'm living proof. You may not know this, but September 11th, when the Twin Towers hit, I was at Southeastern Seminary studying theology. God had called me to preach in high school. I answered the call. And while I was there, I was in the common area. They had one of those big box TVs. And all the prospective pastors that were in between classes were all standing there. And we were all watching as those Twin Towers fell. And many of you remember the horror and what gripped your heart in that moment when that bad thing happened. I called my mom. I said, I'm joining the military. I'm going to war. She said what all you moms would say, no, you're not. I said, well, I prayed about it. And she said, go ahead, son. God's got you. So I did. At the time, it was a very long process to kind of get in because everybody was trying to get in. Old guys that had been out were trying to get back in because they knew the time, and many of them were passionate about protecting this country. So I signed up, went to Parris Island, did all that, and then ended up in what they call a mobile assault platoon. It's a platoon that's put together to be activated forward. What I mean is we did not work on a base, we were our base. The only time we ever went to a base is when we were injured or when one of our vehicles was dismantled by an improvised explosive device, a bomb, roadside bomb. It's the only time we would ever go to a base. We saw a chaplain one time, his vehicle got hit by IED and we never saw him again. It was very dangerous where we were and what we were doing. We were in a time where it was the most fierce fighting in one of the worst areas in Fallujah. And before we left, we went to a place in California. You may not even know that this place exists, but out in the Mojave Desert, they have a training facility that is absolutely state-of-the-art, unbelievable. Matter of fact, they have real Iraqi people that live there. They live there to make the environment so much like when you step out of there, you train to go there and you step right into combat, that it mirrors it. They have the mosques, they have the houses, and it's absolutely amazing. And if you've been there before, you'll realize it is a mirror. It's like being in Iraq. And as we were there, we finished up all the qualifications for the government to say that you are combat ready. But I remember as we were there, our commanding officer came in and he said to us, listen, I can't tell you exactly where we're going and what we'll be doing, but I can tell you this. Where we're going and what we'll be doing, all of you will not come home. He knew what we were about to face. And I'll just be honest with you. People ask me how I felt about that and was I scared or, was I nervous? I really wasn't. Because in my mind and my heart, I thought to myself, it'll never happen to me. You know how you think you're 10 foot tall and bulletproof? You know how you feel like nothing can ever touch you? Every 16-year-old boy in this room has that mentality right now. Nothing ever touched me. It may affect somebody else, but it'll never hit me. But in August of 2006, I got shot in the chest by a 7.62 armor-piercing round by a sniper. Now, if you're a military man in the room, right now you're probably thinking, how in the world are you still here? That's a great question. Because 7.62 armor-piercing rounds, they're not even designed to shoot at people. They're made to go through armored vehicles. So for me to be standing on this stage, you're saying to yourself, you're an absolute miracle. And the only way that can be explained militarily is that God did it. I remember they could not get any kind of air support for me. It took them 4 hours. There was sandstorms that were going on. They had to ground medevac me. It took them 4 hours to get me any kind of help, care to a medical facility in Fallujah. And they had already pronounced me KIA, killed in action. When they got me to the hospital and they backed up the high back, which I was riding in, there's two swinging doors. And in my mind, and probably in your mind, you're thinking, well, there's a whole team of people lined up, ready to work on you and to help you. And I remember that I could not wait for them to swing them doors open and get some help, get some pain relief. And they opened up them doors and there was nobody there. Not a single person. They said, there's no way that guy. And when they found out that I was alive, they were in total shock. They're like, it's impossible for this guy to be alive. But they got on it, man. They grabbed me. They began to cut my clothes off on me. They began to work on me. And I don't remember everything that was taking place through the pain and the process, but I do remember this. I remember the officer that was in charge of working on me. I remember him saying these words just as clear. He said, it's impossible. This guy is a miracle. So if you're a medical person, if you've ever been around in the medical field in any way, you'll understand this a little bit more. What the guy was saying was my ribs had been crushed on my left side, had a lot of trauma on the outer surface of my body and on the inner surface of my body. And what he was saying was, with all the damage that was done, there was zero internal bleeding. So I know what you're thinking. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. That's impossible. You're right, except from God. You can't explain it. There's no other words to explain it. The golfer that was from Pennsylvania, he stood beside me, and I know for a fact he didn't believe in God, not one stitch, not one bit. But he stood there in amazement and just looked at me. He said, that's a miracle. You're right. I am living. If you don't believe in God from the top to the bottom, let me tell you something. Just me standing on this stage is proof. No other way to explain it, but God did it. You say, that's a bad situation. It's been the biggest blessing in my life. Things I struggle with from the military, I still struggle with today, but it's been the greatest blessing in my life. God changed my life in that moment. I realized, listen, I am not bulletproof. I realized how short life is and that I better get busy about the work of God. If you wonder why I run around like I've drank 10 Red Bulls, it's because I've drank 10 Red Bulls. I mean, it's because, listen, what God has done in my life is shut up in my bones. I can't help but share it. I can't help but love. I can't help but give it my all because God has given all for me.